After we've completed all the tasks towards data checking and the verification of syllabification and alignment annotations, our data are ready for research. In order to extract data from your database, FON offers two main systems. The first one is a query and reporting system by which you can compose the type of query you need to extract your data, and from there compose your report so that you report your query results using a format that's useful for either reporting directly or for post-processing using external applications. The other system is the analysis system, a system of built-in analyses that are mostly designed towards helping people doing research in clinical phonology. In this tutorial, we'll explore the functions of the query menu in FON that assembles the different types of queries that you can use to look into the transcription or annotation data within FON. So if we look into the contents of this menu, we can see that FON offers 5 different types of queries. So a query for data tiers, which enables you to look into transcriptions and annotations across all tiers and FONs. A special query to look for segmental deletion, another one to look for phone epenthesis. The phones query is probably the most important if you're interested in doing research on phonology. And finally, segmental relations is a series of detectors that we built into FON to look at special behaviors that children display, for example, in terms of consonant harmony, metathesis, or migration. So in addition to those query methods, as we'll see later, we have a way to access queries that could be shared between users, and also a menu for our preferences on how to manage our queries. And let's look into this set of preferences first. So by clicking on that, that brings you to the query tab of the FON general preferences. And here you can see that there is a function to keep your most recent queries within your wizard, which is really useful in case you're exploring a way to do a query and you don't want to start from scratch every time. And also you have a way when it comes to query reports to also keep your previous reports in memory, because both queries and reports can be at times a little tricky, a little sophisticated to build. So those functions are there to make sure that you don't, get to that heartbreaker where you said, I built all of that fancy query and I lost it because I forgot to save it first. So those are just little add-ons to FON to make the whole experience in developing and using queries and reports more user-friendly. Going straight into the query menu now, we can start with data tiers. And so by clicking on the data tiers option, you see a relatively simple interface that will be similar for all the queries. And the interface is useful in that it guides you through all the steps in building and running a query. So on the left-hand side, you get to pick what session or sessions you want to explore. And in the data tiers query, you have to first indicate what type of, what tier you want to look for. And here I will just look for the tier called orthography. And I will look for a word that I know is present in the database very simply here. So here's a word in Dutch that I know is present in the database, and without looking at any other options, we can run the query and see if we get many cases of this word within our database. So when you run the query, you see that the number of results per session appears on the left-hand side of the lower box, which gives you a sense of how many results you're getting out of your query. So now that we get the query to complete, At that point, every time you have results, you can double click on the relevant line if you're interested to see those results, and Fawn will automatically open both the session containing those results and the list of results within what we call the Results Navigator. And here you can see we have the word Andere in record 2, in record 5, in record 10, in record 52, 72, and 80. And each time you go from one record to the other one, you can see that the result is highlighted within the Fawn session, which helps you with visualizing your query results. And when you close the session, the Results Navigator disappears automatically. So that would be to run a basic, very basic query and to visualize the results related to that query. Now, if we explore the other options, every query has a participant filter. So in case you have multiple participants in your session, but you want your query to be specific to one participant, then you have a way to select the participant by the role. Or if you want to look for one or more participants, you can also go with the participant name or names. Or in the case of a cross-sectional study, for example, you could use the ages for the ages criteria to determine what kind of age range you're looking at for your query. So the participant filter is there to really make sure that you narrow down your query to all and only the participants that are relevant for your research. The word options enables you to do a search that is word by word. And so as you saw in previous tutorials about this corpus, where I use this corpus for an example, sometimes you have more than one word by word group. So in the present context, if you wanted your query to be really restricted within the word domain, then you would activate this function here. And I will skip over these other tiers for the moment, but we'll return to those in further tutorials. And finally, the idea is the same at the level of the group. So if you are interested, so in the case you have a project that has multiple groups, sometimes you may decide to only use to only look at the initial group in your session, because you're only really interested at the beginning, in the beginning of the utterances produced by the child. So these are the kinds of options that the query form will offer you.